Okay, this is the last video that I'm gonna record potentially for some time. The really crazy part is that in my mind, I'm already starting. I'm not sure, I just started recording this and then the recording just stopped. Just saying, sometimes you're kind of stuck. And so selecting food is probably something Good morning. Hello. What's your routine? What's your habit? What are you doing when you ain't doing? Where does your spirit go when you're sleeping? And what is the right diet for you, basically at your stage of development? Is a question that I may address in my already published or upcoming book, The Food I Put Inside My Mouth, Eat, Heal, Enlighten. Which will try to guide you through that's possibly where you are. And that's where you want to get with this, right? That's possibly where you are. And that's where you want to get with this. Which means that you are probably at the stage where many of us have found us or ourselves, where I certainly have found myself highly sugar addicted, having several really unhealthy eating habits, such as stuffing myself until I feel incredibly sick. With me, it was a lot of indigestion and heartburn, and clearly a lack of motivation. So in this video that's coming up, I have tried to simply talk to you about, selecting food, the choices you can make, but the message, basically, of all my content is you are responsible. You're responsible. You are responsible. If your life isn't going the way you feel like it ought to, because you think you have some kind of, I could do better, for whatever reason, a bit of mania, I think I could be the Fire Lord, I think I could be Naruto, right? When you watch Avatar, the series, you're Aang, that kind of stuff. Or maybe you're Zuko, but you feel like you're the centerpiece of your life and too many people have trampled on it and you have listened to too many false voices that had no direction but their own. Which means you need your direction. Because how do you know what their direction is? How do you know what other people are trying to create secretly in their minds? So you have to ask yourself what you've been creating, how diet contributed to that mindset, this rushed and, I just want to get off, clearly is something that we have been taught by sugar. This you want the high right now, that's sugar. In a sense, also a bit coffee, but it's clearly disturbing your flow. Sugar and all that stuff is disturbing your flow. It's like high, low, high, low, high, low. You want a bit more balanced, which is why this year was a lot about holding planks, but also about diet. It was about movement, and it was about nature. It was about how to leave the house when, and what and how much food or what kind of beverages to take. So what you find in my content are a lot of recipes, also for teas. On my Instagram channel, there's also a lot of recipes, but there you have to go scraping, of course. You have to go looking at the articles. I'll put these also into the book. So I have a lot of recipes on the top of my head that I could just do like this. And then of course you open the fridge, you see what's there, do something with it. And if you don't like what's available, well then you have to expand on your repertoire. On what you feel like is available in your mind, and for that you have to blow your mind several times and simply eat things you never ate before. And then your palate is going to get much bigger. You're going to see that there is a life that you can lead without coffee. There is a life that you can lead without sugar or very little of it. I found that if I make myself rye banana pancakes with bicarbonate of soda for a bit of fluffiness and a tablespoon of cinnamon, that this gives me all the sweetness that I need. But for that, I had to make my own experiences. And why rye? Because it contains way less gluten and it has a bit more a nutty flavor. But for that you have to get into the fine nuances that food can deliver if you pay attention to it. And that's my whole point. So I have sorted out my diet, that's all I can say. I have sorted out my diet, and now I'm going to release you into this creation. And there is also a bit of cooking towards the end. Right, skip ahead if you feel like it. If not, this is the almost last video that I'm going to render for 2025. So there's only one more left, which is the last one of the year. And that to me is quite special. Astonishingly well preserved, people say, when I tell them how old I am. And it has a lot to do with cleansing and simply letting go and being your own chef. That knows how to respond to his or her own needs and to the needs of your wife or your husband or your children. So you know, because you've trained yourself to know it. When you're sick, this helps. Right? When you're sick, ginger root, turmeric, black pepper. Cook it into a tea, drink it. That's it. And then that's it. Right? No more running to the pharmacy or something, because that's just nonsense. You don't know what's in there. You can do this yourself from a mind that has no desire to keep you trapped, but that wants you to be healthy and lively and living. And to do so for a very long time, I can tell you, be your own chef. Watch me cook, but cook yourself. Get yourself some inspiration, but simply start cooking. Buy the Hare Krishna book of vegetarian cooking or something, and then simply start cooking. Right? this is the entrance. And then figure it out for yourself if you like the meat or not. And that's all there is to it. If vegan works for you and your endeavors, then it's fine. I have run into clear problems, and the signs were inner cravings for meat, beef or chicken. That's what it mostly turns out for me. But also lamb or something. I don't know, I have something with pork chops. I'm not so sure. You know, no sausage. Now I'm repeating myself. But I feel like it's important. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Because I have said enough. But I'm simply so, I feel relaxed. Because I have worked hard to get to this point where I can finally say I have recorded already all the things for 2025, and now this one to render, and then one more one, and then 2025 is finished. And then all I need to do is upload them. And of course that's gonna take some time. But hey, you know, let's see where this is going.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah, cinnamon, nutmeg. Garam masala. Garam masala.
Okay, I have switched to choosing this now. The battery kind of turned off. I just would like to introduce this video. I'm gonna switch to cooking later in the video. So if you want to skip the first part, where I'm just gonna sit here and make myself one of these somehow dreaded and still loved and appreciated coffees. Well, if you want to skip that, I'm gonna make some kind of a bread with chickpea flour and cumin. And that's gonna be a side dish to my lentil curry. I just feel like I owe it to myself to appreciate this place and this kind of a coffee table, so I can just finish off the year. Because now I have all the content that I wanted to record, and now I only have to bring it into shape, which means to render it, and then I'm done for 2025. But the concept, which is what I was trying to say in the first two instances of this video, the concept for 2026 already is taking shape in my mind, and that's crazy if you think about it. Because I'm in 24, and the concept for 26 is already being shown to me. I cannot even claim this for myself because it just came out of nowhere. It's like, that could be something, you know, split it apart, turn it into segments. So yeah, I can keep you hooked if I want to. And I'm glad it's raining, because I don't have to do the Mongol stuff. You see how I'm talking to you from a distance, right? So to teach you anything about diet is kind of impossible unless you know what I'm talking about. Which means that anything I tell you here about diet becomes then your responsibility to double check. And that's a double and triple bind. You have to make sure that the information I'm giving you is actually accurate for yourself. I'm just saying, yesterday I did not drink a coffee, I think. And I had the feeling in between I wanted to drink a coffee, but I simply refused. To the breaking point. Until the wave breaks, you surf it or something. So sometimes you have to resist doing something until you feel like now it's okay to release this. But having said that, I'm going to make a more milkish coffee because I want something a bit less strong that lasts a bit longer. The cinnamon I think I'll keep for the bread. Or maybe not. Yeah, I just preheat the water. I may have said that already before. So what you eat when is actually very important. What you eat when is very important. But also when you eat what. What? How fast you eat it, possibly. To me, food is something like, right, I really like to work with the consistency of what I'm eating. Right, I'm looking for a specific kind of a, okay, I'm probably gonna run out of, yeah, there's barely any left. Just see how far it gets me. You know, this gas, I have had this for some time. This gives me a purpose now. I can sit here and I can focus on cooking. So I am going to cook with gas. You can count on that. People want it, people don't want it. So selecting food, I mean, at some point I am going to write a book that is probably going to carry the title, The Food I Put Inside My Mouth, Eat, Heal, Enlighten. As to whether or no, as to when, well, that's hard to answer. I'm on schedule with these creations, so I can certainly relax a little, slow down, but then pick up pace again, right? Because that's important. But I can do so certainly in a more grounded way. This is very potent. Cinnamon and nutmeg now. Heated inside milk. I actually don't know what I need the coffee for. In a sense, it's simply also a habit. Because I could be drinking this with green tea, right? Why am I not doing that? Because if I drink a coffee now, it's just going to be overload. So sometimes you really have to think, because I could turn this into a matcha thing. Because coffee really increases the heat really a lot. And at this stage, I really feel like cooling down. Because also when I drink coffee, what I feel like it's altering the reality that I perceive. So there are certain things which change you into a direction that will probably give you a heart attack or make you shout at people or something. And you have to really ask yourself if that is who you would like to have in your life. Because in that sense, you can see yourself as anybody you want. But you have to ask yourself, if you'd be someone else, would you want the guy that's always like, "Rah!" in your life? Would you like to have him in your life? And if I drink this coffee now, and then I go and cook, how is it going to change the food that I'm making? Sometimes I simply give in because I still have coffee. And if I have it, I'm working with it. Right? If I wouldn't want to drink it, I wouldn't buy it. So after I have gone through this, I'll probably not buy coffee anymore for some time. Because as nice as it is, it can also do many other things. And now my landlady thought she could complain about me not mowing the lawn, but it's just raining. That means the lawn is wet. And the way I've been taught, you do not mow the lawn when it's wet. Right? You do it when it's dry, just before maybe it's going to rain. And then they give me crap about, whatever they give me crap about. So they give me crap about weeds, and I say, well, to you, dandelion is a weed. But according to Hildegard von Bingen, it's a healing plant. And that also according to myself. So now I see that I certainly have to clean the kitchen before cooking. Which means, to a certain degree, maybe that's why I'm drinking the coffee, because now I have to do something. But I could also do my breath work. Now you see what probably my mission is going to be after I have finished YouTube 2025, trying to stop with the coffee and learn more about breath work just by breathing. This is how I do it. I teach myself about breath work by sitting down and doing breath work. Without having to read about it, you just sit there and you breathe and you feel your breath. And then you breathe the way you feel like. And then you try to see how it's going to impact your life. So this is something you can experiment with. So also selecting food. I mean, I already have lived as a vegan. And before that, I just ate anything. And then I have started reducing sugar. And suddenly I ate meat again. Because I realized, well, now one main source of energy that I was relying upon fell away, which is sugar. Okay, now I need something else. But I realized that my body or something was demanding energy from animal protein. So milk, this is milk now. Just normal cow's milk, like just the cheap stuff from the shop. From the shop. Yeah, it's just the sheep stuff from the shop. Yeah, it's not sheep, it's cow, you know. It's like that domesticated thing. Like we created it. Right? So in that sense, yeah. You could see cows as mothers. And therefore you could see us as children. But you could also see Mother Nature as the mother. And then asking, why do we drink milk? We say it's been given to us. No, we take it. We take the milk from the cow. And now the question is, do we need it? Well, I feel like there has been a time where I felt really weak. And I started to consume meat and fish, but not pig. I don't eat sausages. I would probably eat a sausage if somebody made it himself and the ingredients are... You know why I don't eat sausages? Because, and also not minced meat. You have to see it that way. If I buy a piece of meat and I eat that, then that's one being. But if I eat a sausage or minced meat, how many are in there? 100? 1,000? It's confusing. Imagine a pack of wolves. I mean, they would have to kill 100 cows to get such a sausage out of it. And that cannot be good. I mean, not even remotely. It just already sounds, if you think about it, super unnatural. And so you simply have to ask yourself what you're eating and how it's making you feel. I feel good if I, let's say, eat, then one animal, one chicken, a piece of meat. If I eat sausage, I just feel incredibly sick. Like sick, really sick. And that could be all kinds of things. Could be just that it has been stuffed into its own colon. I mean, that's kind of sickening, right? Yeah, just gonna preheat the cup. So selecting food means you have to make a choice. Means you have to actively choose. Means you have to discern for yourself what to you is actual nourishment and what is poison. Well, I'm not too keen on soybeans. And that too may have many reasons. Also because I have heard somebody talk about that it's actually not that good. And neither is, I believe, coconut fat. You know, sometimes we are being sold byproducts of the industry simply because they're trying to make money with it. And then they're just funding the research, right? Wow, it's like, there's so much movement in there. And then they're funding the research to say, yo, coconut fat is really healthy. But I mean, come on, it's not. Nothing is super healthy. Right, should you eat this? I mean, it's technically still just milk, right? I can say it smells nice. But there's all kinds of context. Sure, there is cow in this. And then the question, how can I get strength from an animal that has been chained to a railing? So, how can I get strength from a slave? Well, you cannot. Which is why you cannot get strength from listening to Chris Webby. Because he's a slave. He's just working for the industry. He just does whatever he thinks is gonna get him likes. Because he doesn't like himself. That's a fact. Just have to open your eyes. I know I have this thing that I wanted to stay hot. Oh, that's it. Okay, this is empty. So I have to switch. Wow. You see, it actually wasn't hot. I just was afraid it might be. But yeah, sitting like this is certainly giving me back pain. And so just like you may not even realize how bad you've been feeling these past couple of years. Because generally what we do is we align ourselves to our surroundings until I feel like something's about to break or something. I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of pressure building up. And in a sense, I do want to sit like this again. But I'm afraid that it weakens my ankles if I sit like this too often, but it is a very comfortable position. What's this? Aha. There comes the juice! So yeah, you can drink coffee. Does this burn too hot or something? So yeah, you can drink coffee, you can eat sugar, but then comes the point, in moderation. But if you align yourself to what everyone else has been doing, you know, everybody else is eating sugar, everybody else is drinking coffee, well, how does everybody else look like? You may not even realize how bad everyone's been doing. Wow, I'm super afraid something will explode. Okay, this does not look good. Is it possible that this mixture is burning hotter than this one? Propane isobutane mix. Because this was as red as I've never seen it. And this is propane and butane. 30 to 70. Yeah, I'm serious, this looked that, I mean, I've never seen it this red. Or I've never looked at it. Or there's something else at work here. Right? So you just have to pay attention. How do you feel? How do you know you actually should be? This is this inner knowledge that you may have about who you actually feel like you ought to be. Like, I always had this feeling life should be different. Well, that means you have to go looking. What if your habits are unmaintainable? What would you like to do? And how does your diet impact you doing it or not? So I used to have a lot of heartburn. And for 4 years I carried that with me until I found a way out, which was then making art. And then reducing coffee. And then reducing sugar. And now if I feel like there's too much acid, I can immediately react to it. But what's acid? It's energy. So in a sense, your food should be something that assists you in how you feel. But at the same time, why should your food be responsible for how you feel? Should you not simply feel the way you feel, and then what does eating do? Well, why do you eat then? You feel hungry, you eat. Why do I still eat? Right? That's a very valid question. And then why do I eat? What do I eat? When do I eat it? You know, all of these things then are your homework. Because you have to look at your life. I have talked about diet in the book of Fear. And I have released certain images. I have shared my cooking on YouTube. I have talked about diet in connection to spirit. But all of this is also very, very, very hard to grab. Because spirit is nothing you can really pin down. You can simply look and observe. And then you often think, oh, wow, that's how it is. But you'll always get to the point, well, to a certain degree, right? So diet shouldn't be something, you know, that's what I'm gonna eat now for the rest of my life. This is what a lot of people do. They eat oats once and then they want to keep eating oats every morning. You know, whether it serves them or not. Then they just become servants of oat. I mean, I am constantly changing and life is constantly changing. So if you think about it, if you would have been born into the wild, you could have never eaten the same thing every day. You would have always been subject to change. But in times like this, where everything is constantly available, you have to simply adapt to the change, which is why Focus on seasonal cuisine. I mean, why do you have to eat rucola in the middle of winter? So you eat the food that is seasonally available. And you may even try to get it from local farmers, depending on your situation. My situation is simply I take what's being given and I buy what's available at the moment. But my vision is clearly pointing into another direction, such as I don't want this to be empty all the time, right? I'd love to have children running around here, you know, my own children, and then my wife, and then us together. But at this stage, I can almost safely say that, you know, it's so far away that it's unimaginable. But I can still choose accordingly. So even though I think I may never be happy, I can still look at my diet and just see if I might still be happy anyway if I stop drinking coffee. And it just can be, you know, but now you're in a delicate position. You want to change, but other people don't. And as soon as you start the attempt to change, people are going to come and tell you to stop. You know, you want to fast, people come and talk you out of it. Right? You want to stop drinking coffee, people come and try to talk you out of it. Because if you stop drinking coffee, they kind of lose someone they feel connected with due to their habit of drinking coffee. You see, people cling to each other by forcefully doing the same stuff and then saying, hey, we're the same, you know. You drink coffee, I drink coffee, aren't we the same? Well, you may just drink the coffee because I'm drinking it, which makes us not the same. Because maybe I really want to drink coffee and you just drink it because I drink it, but I have the feeling, you know, I can work with it, but you don't. You see what I'm getting at here? So the same thing never works for the same guy. You may be tough. And you may be Aang. I mean, Aang eating meat, he could no longer be himself. So I'd probably, who would I relate to more? Well, you know, I have a Zuko in myself. Maybe I have a bit of a Toph in myself. I clearly have, what do I have in myself else? Oh, Katara. Hey, that's actually nice. Oh, wow. No, wait. Who was missing in their team? No, they had them all. They had air. They had water. They had fire in the end. They had earth. Wow, I've never seen that. Super interesting. Lead over. And then they had simply the human guy. So you have to see who you are. And if you've been eating like the normal standard diet is basically people are running out of juice and they try to keep their fire alive by throwing gasoline onto it. So in a sense, yes, you could say coffee is kind of like gasoline. Sugar is kind of like gasoline. All these white flour foods, you know, it's like all the stuff that just burns really fast. It's like trying to keep a fire alive through the night with nothing but spruce, right? Spruce has a lot of, it has a lot of resin in there. But if you're trying to keep a fire alive, you constantly have to put more stuff on it because yes, it burns very hot. but it also burns away really fast because it doesn't make embers, it just produces ashes. What you want is embers. So yeah, you can use spruce to kind of like fire it up, but what you need then is like tough wood that makes good coals and good embers and burns a bit slower. And that's oil. That's why yes, milk and fat. That's why yes, cream. Because if I rather drink a cup of cream than just eat sugar. Because sugar may make me incredibly high now, but it's gonna burn away really fast. But milk can bring me through a hike, no problem. What else? Chocolate has a lot of fat, but it's more something you add. It's not something you should live on, like in Mary and Max, right? So protein, ketogenic, lentils, chickpea flour, right? Occasionally maybe you make stuff like falafel, hummus, beans, and then meat. For me, it's more like beef, occasionally chicken, fish in moderation, all of these things in moderation. And then you have maybe a couple of weeks where you just eat vegetarian or vegan. And then you'll see how you get to the point where you feel like something's missing and you see, you get this deep craving for meat. But then also be selective. I don't eat every kind of meat. I'm really selective. I choose very selectively. A monkey doesn't just stuff everything into its mouth. They're very specific. They also eat a lot of like flowers and blossoms. But then they have to eat a lot of it because usually what they find has no great nutritional, highly energetic value. Which is why the vervets in the Mochalaquina River Reserve, where I did my research or my observational training, the vervets there raided also, which is of course a greater risk. Plus, if you are stuck to raiding, then you will spend less time being nice and motivated and roaming around. You'll be just really full and heavy, and then you're easier prey. And we're talking also about spiritual predators here. You have to be alert. Because on the other side of comfort is you're being harvested. Because your money is going into what maintains your comfort, and your money is your life's energy, is your spirit, is what nature gave to you to make experiences, and the only experience you're making is every morning oats. Every day a coffee. It should be something special. And if the community has no value for anything anymore, not even for respect, right? Because it's just too much. You lose respect. Then you have to restrict yourself. And you will get stronger in your mind. Just try it. You drink a coffee every day. Try resisting it just one day. Today I'm not going to drink coffee. And then people come and they're going to get you to drink it anyway, just to see. Well, maybe a few times you're going to crumble, but at some point you're going to say, nah. So many people, they just do a New Year's Eve resolve. They have this resolve, right? Resolution, that's the one. But they've got no resolve. They have a resolution, but it's not a real resolution. And it already has become a joke. Because every time somebody says, I'm going to do this for next year, they never do it anyway. Because they want it right away. But often what I felt is you have to build it up. So I've been rushing ahead into ketogenic, but now I'm slowly kind of settling in it. But I can still eat occasionally bread, but I start to realize that I prefer it less. I prefer it less because it's actually, you're too full, it's harder to digest, and although you're full, you feel empty. But if you start becoming more fuller yourself, because you stop masturbating all the time, and you stop screwing around, and you filled your life with something, and you go a lot into nature, well, you're gonna be more full by yourself, which then means you have to rely less on other things. And that really depends on how you've been raised, where you've been raised, who you've been raised by. And because we're kind of like beings of mind, and the mind is like a garden, and there have been things growing that are unpalatable, right? So you think, oh, this plant looks really nice, but it's poison. And the stuff that's actually good, we say are weeds. So why do we say that dandelions are weeds? They're really important healing plants. So all I'm trying to say with this is, you have to make your own choices. But for that, you first have to see what you've chosen up until now. And then you simply have to clear yourself, clean your mind from all the nonsense. And then you realize that everybody's gone kind of mad. Everybody's kind of nuts. But also on purpose. They want to be that way. Because if they'd start being serious, then they'd have to take responsibility. And that would mean making amends. That's the Voldemort story. Everyone has some kind of dead body in their cellar, you know. Friends you've treated like crap. People you used, just acted nice about it. Right? Maybe it's the one-night stand or the porn addiction. So sometimes we eat things just to run away from acceptance. So you have to accept that you're fat or lazy before you can change that. First, you have to accept that your diet is out of control and that you're using food for the wrong reasons. And that empty food can never fill you, which is why fast food is simply bullshit. So what you have to do is feel your way through this. Look at your life, what you're eating, and then compare yourself to other people. How do you really look like? But not in the mirror. How do you feel like this? Do you do the things that you wanted to do? Is your life the way you wanted it to be as a child? Well, if it isn't, then I'd change something. Now I've already given you a few clues. Switch to ketogenic. Nobody has diabetes. That's just a word. That's just a marketing strategy for things they give you as a treatment. If you want to cure diabetes, then you have to clean and heal your spirit and your broken body and your broken emotional self, that kind of stuff. And in order to do that, what do you have to do? Well, go more into nature, but really to connect with her, which few people ever really do. They just wander around it, but they never really connect with spirit. Well, why is my connection to spirit severed? Well, it can be re-established, but for that you have to want it, and then you have to listen. What do I have to do to re-establish my connection to spirit? But that's gonna be hectic. I mean, you've seen it in my life. Messages are gonna start floating in. And so you need to focus yourself on the intention of healing and living and maybe being your own man or woman and having a family and children. But for that you have to be stable. Because if there's children here, you know, and one runs around, takes off his underwear and shits into the corner, I'm just saying, I mean, you don't want to go there and beat him. But you also still have to know how to put a child into place. That doesn't mean I have to come and like shame you. I just have to tell you that's your place. Why are you shitting in the corner for? Who's gonna clean it up? You're too small. You know, I'd talk to a toddler like this. Possibly. I just know I'll be a good father because I have gone through father training. This is when you prepare yourself to be a father. You stop screwing around, you choose a woman, and then leave it up to the woman to come and give you a child. So you start holding your planks, you learn to be a cook, you do your own laundry, you wipe your own floor, you clean your own carpet, right? You never go to a barber, right? You maintain your own thing. And that's what I really mean. I mean, I'm doing all of this by myself. But it needs to be done. It needs to be done. You have to sort out your diet. You have to be highly selective about the food that you eat. You see, now I was tired. I drank a coffee, but it wasn't just the coffee because I also hadn't eaten. It was also the milk, of course, and now there's energy. Now what do I do with the energy? Well, what am I gonna do? Do laundry, clean my apartment, prepare myself to do the next recording, because that's my life. That's my job, to bring you content. And I'm already being guided for 2026. And it's the 4th of July. Oh wow, it's Independence Day. It's Independence Day, the 4th of July. How? Look at how independent I am. Because I'm independently doing things. Hey, that's crazy. I made the last recording on Independence Day. Depend. No, pending. It's also pending. Sometimes people are just pendling around. You know, everything's like pending. Isn't that also the word from waiting? You know, you should do this independently of the people you see. Because in terms of people that I saw in my surroundings, nobody did anything else than what they've been doing for the last couple of decades. I started to change. I started to do my sadhana. I started to pick up on my emotional work because I was having suicidal thoughts and I hated that. And when I started working with that, I realized that basically everyone has it. Everyone has it. Because it's just the shadow. And if you try to ignore your shadow, it's gonna run amok inside yourself. Yeah, and then energy is gonna break out into an angry tantrum, into all kinds of things. And now I feel it here, right on the right side. I could ignore this or I start working on it. So I have to do something. I have to do my stability training. And that never stops, right? I have to do planks. I have to hold these things, whether I record myself or not. I have to keep doing these things. Because I also see things that I would like to do, but I have to build up on it, right? So to go from a bridge, maybe into a handstand or something, I don't know even if that's possible. But I sure can find out. But for that, I have to have my diet in check, because if I'm always bloated and full, so an elemental sulfur cleanse to me did it. But it also burns you out in a certain way. So you cannot keep doing this indefinitely. What you should do is change your diet, start working with spices, chili. If you're depressed, eat chili, eat hot. But also that, don't overdo it. If you start getting heartburn, rile back a little. Drink a little bit of water. You know, work with spices. That's the best thing I can tell you. Work with spices. It's so beautiful. Spices change it all. They change it all. Cardamom, green cardamom, black cardamom, cloves. Cloves have a lot of heat. You read about these things. Wait, I have this book. I have 16 minutes left. I have this book that I bought from like one of these, I don't know, they're called world shops. It's called a world shop, and it can give you the world. You know? Hey, let's save third world countries. And how are we gonna do that? Well, hey, that's my Kindle. How are we gonna do that? Well, I can tell you, you know, we're gonna send stuff around. 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 This is gonna be a long video, my friend. And I still have to do cooking. Now let's see where this is going to go, my friend. This is a €2 book. It's called Sri Lanka Curries. I actually don't know where they're getting it from, but it's a really good book. It's a very good book. It's a very good book. A very good book. What we can also look up actually is, because sometimes, you know, instead of reading the whole Bhagavad Gita, because I don't have the time right now, but I think I will do it, certainly, but not right now. So I'm gonna look up food in the Bhagavad Gita. You see, this is then what coffee does. It draws out your spirit. Zoop! It opens you up. Do you want to open yourself up at the place you work? Try. Try not drinking coffee. You'll start hating that place because you'll start seeing that's an interesting one. Foods that bequeath longevity, full of energy, bestow good health and vigor with happiness and satisfaction, are relished by those in sattva guna, the mode of goodness. Now I think I'm more like a sikh, S-I-K-H, which means that I want a woman I want the worldly life, so I have reached a certain sense of enlightenment, but I also consciously chose that I need to fill my life with a female presence. Because, let's be honest, there's no greater pleasure. Let's imagine you're like Tom Bombadil. You start being like Tom Bombadil, right? And then you have gold berries waiting. Yeah, sure, man. It's not about the sex, because if you're in the same space with a woman and you're open towards each other, that's already like sex. And some people don't get it. They want it, but in order to get there, you have to suffer incredible amounts. Okay. The spiritually minded who eat food that is first offered in sacrifice are released from all kinds of sin. What? So you eat something, you first have to sacrifice something. But that in this society is being considered as wasteful. But on the other hand, you can see it as spirit provides. You give something back, but now the question is, where do you give it to? I mean, if you live like this, I'm not going to cook rice and then keep a bowl of rice standing there so it can rot. But it is maybe something you can start experimenting with. Does the way you feel about eating change if you give something back to spirit? I'm not sure that it's really necessary. I mean, okay. If a wolf, you can actually see animals as enlightened. I'm just saying. Only animals that have been kind of like, animals that come from human settlements are often really hurt. Because humans can torture other beings inside their minds. Because we can create a space inside our mind. And there we can do anything. So I no longer have to take a scalpel. I can just do that to you inside my mind. If you're unaware of it, I'm just saying. And that also food can enhance. Others who cook food for their own enjoyment verily eat only sin. You know how this sounds like? Very biased. I mean, I eat to keep myself alive so I can contribute to this thing. You see the concept? I eat to keep myself alive so I can contribute and I can maintain this space, which seems very clear at the moment. So I eat, so I will stay alive, but for that I first have to want to live. And if I say I want to live, which I have done a couple of times where I was at moments where I felt like I'm gonna die, I said no, but I want to live. I actually have had these moments buried in my podcast while I was in Amsterdam. I had these moments and I said, no, I want to live. And then I started looking for it. And so there's more to spirituality than meets the eye, right? Commentary. In the Vedic tradition, food is cooked with the consciousness that the meal is for the pleasure of God. Okay, so I have to see myself as a part of the creation and also as being worthy of existing in that creation. So I have to find this self-value about myself before I could even begin consciousness that the meal is for the pleasure of God. Because, so if you start cooking, you want to cook really well. I mean, you don't get it. You know, I can cook you a meal. It's gonna knock you out, man. It's gonna transform you. It's gonna change everything you thought you knew about food. I can do that. You know, my parents refused everything I did, and now they're looking forward to it. I'm just saying. Maybe on Friday I could visit them. I don't know yet. In the Vedic tradition, food is good. A portion of the food items is then put in a plate and a verbal or mental prayer is made for the Lord to come and eat it. After the offering, the food in the plate is considered prasad, grace of God. All the food in the plate and the pots is then accepted as God's grace and eaten. What? Okay, so the idea is not that you throw the food away, is that you say it's an offering for God. But then afterwards you eat it yourself. You see how weird that is? It's very contradictory. Because you say, you know, this food is for spirit. But if spirit isn't fast enough, you'll eat it first. You see what I'm saying? So it's irrelevant. It's just how you feel about it. You know, if you think, oh my God, you know, it's so selfish. How is it selfish? I eat to keep myself alive and then I go about and do stuff. So I cook food and then I feel selfish and then I say, this is an offering to God. But if it were an offering to God or spirit, then I would have to give it to all the microbacteria and the things that eat this, right? But then I eat it myself and I say, you know, oh, it's still there. Yeah, of course, after 5 minutes, it's still gonna be there. If you would have waited a year, it would have been gone. But you only waited 5 minutes and then you say, oh, it's still there. It's the grace of God. I'm giving it, you know, I'm getting it back. I say, oh, it's for God. And then I eat it myself. It's like, what? You just said it's supposed, so see how phony the Gita is? Holy shit, I'm gonna tear that thing to shreds. Oh, it's gonna have nothing. I'm gonna take my hammer of truth and I'm going to go and just disembark it. Because that thing is a pile of crap. The whole Bhagavad Gita is just nonsense. After the offering, the food in the plate is considered grace of God. All the food in the plate and the pots is then accepted as God's grace and eaten in that consciousness. This is so stupid. You know, you either give it as an offering to spirit or you just eat it. But if I'm part of spirit, then me eating it, so why the extra step? It's just like I'm bored, I need something else to do. So you should read everything with an open mind and see it from the perspective of nature. Because humans can talk themselves into all these beliefs about gods and all that kind of stuff, but in the end you're here and that's your life and you need to take responsibility, you know? The Bhagavad Gita is a romanticized version of what is happening. It's like, oh, the grace of God. The grace of God. I give you this. Oh, you don't want it? Oh, I take it back. Oh, it's the grace of God. You know, I gave it as the grace. You know, it's the grace of God. You know, I gave it as an offering. Now it's the grace of God. I can eat it myself. Oh, you know, so much more pleasure. You know, it's like the dessert. You already ate, and now you have these things, you know, it's like you have this cookie, or you have this really awesome thing that you were eating, like a really soft, like, bread with like a butter cake. And you think you ate it all, you know, you think you ate it all, but then you realize you come around a corner and there it is, you know, you just placed it somewhere because you stopped eating. It's like, oh wow, there's still something left. You know, you just want that feeling. So you just put it to the side so you can eat more of what you made later again. That's just greed. You know, it's just like talking yourself out of being greedy. Because if you weren't greedy, you would have just left it there for spirit to eat it. And now you come along and say, oh wow, who placed that there? Oh, it's the grace of God. No, you put it there. And now you're eating it. Like, what's your point? This is so great. To avoid causing terror to living beings, let the disciple refrain from eating meat. The food of the wise is that which is consumed by the sadhus. It does not consist of meat. What is a plant then? But the meat, the flesh of the plant. Right? So I see no difference. I see no difference. Because if you live in times of plenty, then sure you can make a choice and not eat meat. But let's say you would live in some kind of like an ice age or in the desert. You just eat what's available. And there's an animal, I've got a shadow. I mean, I see my shadow. You know what my shadow wants to do? It wants to go into the forest with a knife and then just jump on the back of a deer and just like slit its throat. And then I want to just, take it apart, eat it, and be on my merry way. So I feel alive, right? That's the Viking spirit. Okay, that's enough from the Gita, but I think you get my point. I mean, you live to be alive. Okay, 2 minutes left, 2 minutes left. It's because the next instance you're gonna see me standing in the kitchen. Sri Lanka. Okay. Chili, cumin, cinnamon, ginger, curry leaves, black mustard seeds, turmeric, lemongrass, coriander, cardamom, cloves, pepper, curry. And then to make your own curry powder. How awesome is that, man? You can like roast the spices and then make your own curry powder and then store it in a sealed jar. You make it on a day where the energy is just right. I mean, to get that kind of an understanding about kitchen and composition. I mean, that's what we're talking about. That's where we're trying to get to. The inquisitory, where you can really like one pinch of this. How many hours do you have to cook to get there? This is nothing you can find in books. This is something you get from, okay, you look at the information, then you look at food, and then you have to be inspired. So you also, when you travel, you try different things, right? You try different kinds of foods, and then you try to recreate it. You get home, that's your set of information, and then you're trying to recreate it. Sometimes you just need new input. So you eat things you thought were scary. I mean, I don't have to eat stinky fish in Norway. I mean, I can eat curries in India. Or I can find like a really awesome curry place, maybe in Amsterdam or wherever I live. Or I can look for people. I can just hold the intent of trying to meet or of meeting people that know about curries. I want to learn about curries. And if you know anything about the law of attraction, you try to attract this into your life, maybe somebody's gonna come and tell you something about curries. That's how it works for me often. I feel like I want something, I'm looking for something, and then I go out and suddenly somebody comes and gives me this. This is living a conscious life. Actually seeing who you meet. Actually seeing who you're dealing with. Who's the reflection of yourself? Who are you meeting? Who are these people? We are all beings of mind. We are all spiritual beings. Everything is spirit. So yeah, I mean, okay, this recording is gonna end. But I think I've given you something, cardamom, that kind of stuff. And then you can make different kinds of curry powders. And then you simply start cooking and make experiences. Okay? See me in the kitchen.
What is this? Wait.
Okay, cooking. Wait a second. What do I need Well, I need a pot to knead. I'm gonna have to make tea again. Okay, I'll take this one, which is what I used for the horseradish. I have to filter water, so I have to get my kettle to catch it. So, from the point where I thought why am I drinking the coffee to the point where I drank it, I have started and listened to the Lord of the Rings audiobook. They're now in Rivendell. It's about the chapter Many Meetings. Now we're gonna make food, and we're gonna make bread, which is going to add to my, it's gonna be adding to the curry, the hot lentil curry that I made. Just something I feel like doing. I need to set up a fresh batch of tea for my hike on Saturday. This, by the way, adds oxygen and life to the water, which is also what I like about the filtered water. This is why I call it my spring. It's like spring water, right? Fresh spring water, because it dissipates. It not dissipates, what's the word? It, yeah, maybe, energy clutters in the water. So I have a much better feeling, and it's not my imagination. I have tested this. This water tastes completely different than if it comes straight out of the tap. And all I'm using for this is this Sanuno, like a table water filter. So however you do it, right, it makes a difference, because there's a ceramic turbulencer and the water comes through, and then it's also falling into this thing that's like spring water. I mean, I could of course now also take stones and let it run through this. This would be maybe a further step. I haven't thought of it now, but then I also have to clean the stones frequently. I could actually build my own filter thing. How would I do that? Well, you need sand. I would suggest you need other things where the water runs through, and occasionally you probably just have to clean it or something. I don't know how. But that's what I would do. But this is the next step, right? For now, this works. Even when I look at it, it seems much clearer. Okay, I'm gonna do this now because I'm gonna turn up the heat anyway. I also need to think about what kind of a tea I want. I feel drawn to black tea because it's gonna be shadow work, certainly. I feel like probably a bit of heat. So, because I know these hikes are heavy, now I could think bitter, but 3 heaped, 4 heaped teaspoons, or rough measurements. Okay, now I'm thinking green cardamom because it's an energizer. So preparation. I know already now that on this and this day I'm going to this and this thing. So I need to keep track of my creation. It's not my creation, right? That's what we also need to understand. We're all working together. Cinnamon, but cinnamon sticks. What's a cinnamon stick? I mean, where did I put the cinnamon? Here. It's what I got from the shops. So that's heat, right? Cinnamon is hot. It's a hot spice. If you ever eat cinnamon, you'll know. For now, I'm just gonna do it like this. If I want ginger, I'll add it later. Wait, there was something else I had. peel and all. Okay, now I have to think. Did say a couple of cloves. I have to get more. It was a teaspoon probably, like roughly. Okay, now think about it, feel into it. One chili. Right, one dried chili. I do take pictures of this occasionally. But actually I'm not really fond of Instagram anymore. I clearly feel like I ought to just a bit of nutmeg. This you could mix with milk and then you have chai, which makes it more of a meal. Okay, I'm gonna just take checking. Oh, nice. The chili shows nice and bright. Now, of course, I could have made it in a way that you still see the cinnamon stick. How am I going to get that out? But now you cannot see the cloves. You see, you highlight the one thing and you lose the other. In the end, I'm gonna write it down anyway. Plus, not everyone has to. I mean, you don't have to see it all. Sure, it would be nicer. So you add it when it's cold. You know, you could first add the black tea. So maybe I'm gonna do it again another time. And then make sure that it shows before. So this is a very enriching tea. You could make this when you go on a hike, but just be aware that this is gonna push you. This is very, very strong. Very strong. This is for people who choose active living. I'm gonna add a bit of black pepper. because I just need, you know, heat, a bit of heat. So, and it's better like this than to always drink coffee, right? So you should change in between. Okay, now for the bread. The bread will not be ketogenic. You could make it just with buckwheat flour maybe, but strictly speaking ketogenic. You know, I still like also the normal kind of flour. I have no real problem with, I mean, like I said, use it in moderation and then it can work. So I'm gonna add a bit of baking powder, bicarbonate of soda, which is a natural raising agent. So even that is something selective. Now this is cumin seeds. I have realized that if you add ground cumin, it changes something in the food, which is why I work with whole cumin, just ground it a little. This is just the cleansing. If you start working with spices, I think cumin is also a large part in falafel. Okay, now of course you can ask yourself, what type of bread are you making? So this is gram flour or chickpea flour. Now you could add curry madras or curry powder, but also I felt that turmeric also has an impact. If I make like a dough with bicarbonate of soda, wow, I like the smell. It has an effect on it. Nice. Right. You have to earn the right to cook well. And for that you simply have to cook a lot. I keep saying that. Okay, now I'm gonna take some kind of like full corn or just rye flour. This is also for consistency. Because sometimes you want something that's a bit heavy. But you have to really observe yourself. What were the goals you set yourself for the day? And what did you eat? And did what you eat help you to reach the goal, or did it not? This is very important. If you have a certain goal, you have to see whether you've reached it in due time. So I have reached my goal now, at least already with recording all the content that I wanted. I'm going to add a bit of spelt flour for sponginess, to give it a bit of elasticity. And now I can, but I probably will not. I also still have this gluten-free corn flour, I think. Yeah, corn flour. Just a bit. It makes it a bit more fluffy. But if you add too much, then it's gonna become brittle. There is an excellent way of making gluten-free burger bread with corn flour. I mean real like fine corn flour and chickpea flour. I think it was 2 corn, 1 chickpea or something. Oh, yellow. Also in coloration, right? Sometimes you work with colors. That's enough. And then I would say certainly a bit of salt. Is this too much? Was about a tablespoon, which is the big spoon. Okay, now this is coming to a boil, but it's gonna stand tomorrow still. Then I'm gonna fill it Saturday before I leave. And then this. Hello Kitchen. Okay, now you could say depending on how fluffy you want it. Okay. So of course you can make it more spicy or less spicy. I mean, now again, cinnamon feels like a bit overkill. Because I already have tea with cinnamon. But you could make it like a cinnamon. Maybe I need cinnamon at the moment. So this is intuitive again, right? So I haven't done this in exactly the same way I'm doing it now. This is simply selecting also from what I had available. So sometimes you just have to buy a stack of things and you just have them there, but I would sometimes just use it until it's gone, instead of always making sure that you have the same things at home. You know, sometimes you first use what you have. So also to have the ingredients available in moderation, if you see what I'm saying. So this actually is a dough that you could let rise a little, soak a little. So also to this kind of bread, you have to get used to it, but I like working with doughs. Now the question is, today almost looks like I could actually mow the lawn. Okay, now this is coming to a boil. Put it to the side. Put this on top. Also energy wise, you use what is available. So sometimes people, they want to have a reason to talk to you and they cannot find anything, and then they just complain. And then you say, are you serious? Is there nothing else you could say but just, you know, want me to take your worries off your shoulders? I mean, is there nothing else in your world? I mean, it's just a little bit weird sometimes. How people, you know, they just want you to give you more, you know? And sometimes they take something away from you, then they want to see how you struggle after them. It's like, why? You've got no direction. Why should I follow you into your weird, I act like I've got something, but I ain't got nothing. I like this consistency. Okay, simply because I'm hungry. So this you could also eat as a pancake. This can be a bread next to anything. You can make it flat or bigger. I suppose you could turn this into some kind of like a kebab thing, but it's probably not hard enough for that. So this is not like pizza dough stuff, but you could make this as a basis for pizza. Certainly. I'm just gonna bake one. Just because now I'm already, the juices are flooding me. I want to eat. Oh, I'm so hungry. I am so hungry. Je m'appelle Christopher et je femme. Je femme. Femme is woman, of course. Je femme. Je femme. Je suis désolé. Je suis désolé. Je veux manger. Je veux manger. Is this actual French, or would I have to say, je veux te mange, je veux te mange, je veux te mange. Le petit garçon est femme. Il voudrait te mange, du monde. Il voudrait te mange. I don't know. I think voudrait is to want to. Where is this coming from? I'm reconnecting with my French and I don't even know how. I think I'm gonna occasionally watch French movies. Il voudrait te mange. Je voudrais des pains français. Un petit peu. Un puis. What did I say? Un puis. What does it mean? Je ne sais pas. There were times where I really wanted to live in France. I loved French women. French men, I don't know. I thought they were all kind of dicks. Just that, you know? I wasn't too fond of French men, but neither was I too fond of other kind of men, unless they had actually something to give. But all I met was boys, you know, the story of my life. 50-year-old boys. So to be serious is seriously difficult. So you can even, through changing your diet by saying, I reduce sugar, I increase bitter, what are you gonna get? Well, what you're gonna get is a more masculine demeanor, because your childish playfulness is gonna fall away and you're gonna take life a bit more seriously. So sugar really turns you into like a blabbering idiot. Not only, but it's just an imbalance. So bitter, as you can find in radicchio salad or lettuce, radicchio lettuce, certainly has an impact. And once you get used to bitter, which is ayahuasca, is a really bitter brew that is known to spark awakening, that is intensifying the clarity of your dreams. So you don't have to go to a ayahuasca shaman necessarily. You can simply start drinking bitter tea at home. And then as you get more clearer and your dreams start to become more and more clear as well, you can start to connect to your ancestors more, because you can now listen, because the bitter is going to cleanse everything. And that in addition, of course, to, so, I mean, let's face it, nobody really liked coffee the first time they drank it. And nobody really liked beer. They just, drank themselves into accepting it because everybody drank it and they didn't want to stick out. So they simply did what everybody else does, which is suck up to the masses, right? But how many people do you know that really went to great length to figure out what these things actually do? Also to themselves, to them. I don't necessarily know what coffee does to other people, but I know certainly what it does to me. So I can make a conscious choice and say, now I'm gonna drink the coffee, because I know I also have to have energy available. So sometimes I simply need to sleep, and then I feel into it. Another coffee wouldn't help me. Now I need to sleep, and then I sleep. As much as I wanted to work and all that kind of stuff, but I realized now I need to sleep, and then I sleep. And then I sleep, and then I take my time, and I rest, and I sleep, and then I wake up, and then I wait to the moment where I realize, okay, now I could drink the coffee. And then I drink the coffee, and then I push off into whatever I think like I have to be doing. But I also have to realize that there should be days where I simply do it without drinking the coffee. Because if I always feel like if I want to do it, I first have to drink the coffee, that's the same problem as if I start connecting, let's say doing some kind of a workout with filming myself, then I can never do the workout without the camera. And that's a very unhealthy dependence, because you also have to make experiences by yourself. And to also test, okay, now I have had a hike and I drank a coffee on the hike. Well, next time, maybe I will do it different. So you start introducing change. Okay, now you know how to live on sugar addiction and meat eating. How is it to live vegan? How is it to live vegetarian? How is it to live without wheat? How is it to live without corn? How is it to live without fast food or without eating other people's food and just only make my own food? That's what's gonna make you understand cooking. How is it to live in silence? And you may have problems because maybe you have still a normal job or you have to talk. But let's say you have your own apartment, which some of us do. Well, what are you going to do? Well, you could say, this weekend I'm going to stay inside. On Friday I'm going to clean. And I'm going to stay completely silent. I'm going to say nothing. I'm going to turn my phone to flight mode, or I'm going to turn it off, put it in a sock and hide it in a drawer. And then see if by Sunday I forgot about it. And every time the notion comes, the suggestion to look something up on the phone, you simply say, no, I'm gonna let it come through spirit. And then you simply sit and wait until an insight comes, and this insight is gonna form in your mind, in front of your visual inner eye, and it's gonna show you something, either an ingredient. This is what happens if you sit in silence and look for your way out. And it's gonna give you a vision. You're gonna see yourself drinking a coffee. You're gonna see yourself using a certain kind of spice. And then maybe you're gonna see yourself cooking food. And then you simply, let's say falafel. you're gonna see yourself making falafel, but instead of looking up falafel, because you have maybe eaten them already, so you know at least how it tastes like. And then you go into the kitchen or you see what you have available, right? And then you simply start adding things. Like I did now, I was looking for a certain kind of dough. But I have been already making doughs for years now. I mean, when I was younger, I made cake doughs. And then I started to switch to bread. Then I made sourdough bread, but I didn't like it, so I started to make smaller breads. And then I started to add yeast, and then I realized that yeast is bad because it spreads through your entire body, and you shouldn't use yeast at all. You know, that's something I would challenge you on. Stop eating anything that contains yeast, because yeast is seriously impacting. It's taking over your entire system. It's changing the way you think. You think you want this, you think you want the sugar. No, it's the yeast. Because the yeast has a mind on its own. I mean, there are fungi because yeast is a fungus. And there are fungi that take over the minds of other beings. And we know this of insects and snails that are then being forced by the fungi that takes over the mind, because it's the being of mind. And it gets it to move to this top of some kind of like a stalk of grass or something. And then it's being eaten by a bird, and the bird shits out the fungus, and then it lands somewhere else, and then an ant comes or a snail walks through it and zack, takes over the animal and then consumes it. That also happens. And that's what yeast does in your body. So you eat sugar, and every time you stop eating sugar, you get tired. And then you feel like you have to drink a lot. Well, I don't drink that much anymore, because I don't have all these yeasts in me needing all the water and the sugar. And you don't want to be taken over by yeasts, because that's quite dirty. I mean, your mind is going to get really dirty and murky, and you're going to turn into Mirkwood, and then you become more like Sauron, who cannot really see the light anymore and tries to create darkness for everyone around him because he thinks that's the way of being. So you could show him the light, you could say, hey, do an anorganic sulfur cleanse, mate. How about fasting? And then his impurities would be washed away, but for that he would have to let go of believing that he needs to be Sauron. So diet is also a lot about mind, about beliefs, about clinging to what you were taught. So in a way, it's also letting go of your parents' ideologies. Because my parents still mostly eat the way they've eaten. And I changed it. Now this could be a meal by itself, by the way. I could just do this now, cover this up, let it stand. Because now maybe I just wanted to show you. Right? Or maybe I go now like a good boy, the good boy that I am. Make the food that I said I would. Right? I could even throw in a carrot salad before it goes bad. But I can still keep the dough. Sometimes I keep the dough because it's nicer to make it fresh. Well, this is the curry you saw me cooking. But now I'm gonna heat it up. I'm gonna take this. But I don't want to make, I could even turn this into a soup, right? If I wanted to. But I do not. I'm gonna eat a lot of lentils and chickpeas. Now this goes back in the fridge. This goes over here. This goes on top of this thing because here's the cable, so I don't want to burn it. This can turn off because there should be enough heat in there. Okay, so hard to say now. I think I'm just gonna prove my point. Not cut the grass and just see what my landlady is gonna say. Right? If she takes away the gardening, that's her problem. I mean, we can be friends, right? But if you want me as an enemy, I think you're fighting a lost battle. Because I go hiking 30 kilometers in one day, in bare feet, right? I mean, I've been trained by nature. What are you gonna do to me, right? You know? Look angrily, well, tough. I think nature is a bit more powerful and vicious than you are. So how should you ever scare me? You see the benefits of going into nature and learning her ways rather than that of puny humans, you know? Little puny humans that think they're so tough. Yeah, that works for city people, your little angry glare. But not for sharpened steel. People who go hiking alone, I mean, what are you gonna say to me? Cannot say anything. Okay, I have these carrots. So what about blue mold cheese? What about blue mold cheese? Is this part of humanity gone insane? Eating moldy food? Or is it an exquisitory? Well, that's hard to say. But now I'm going to turn this into some kind of a vegetarian burger. Because I have to use the cheese that I still have before it goes bad. Because I think food deserves better than going bad. So householding and appreciation also go hand in hand. Okay. Now you see they're already getting a bit off, so I have to grate them, but I'll do that afterwards, I think. I'm sure I will. Okay, now I take this bread. You know what this is? Horseradish that we made. Okay. Bit of ketchup. I like spongy consistencies. And in a relationship, I like consistency. Which is, you choose a woman, you want her to stay, right? Because you're also a little child. You know, you're a boy. And for that you want your girl. And you want her to stay. So that's all I can say, right? Okay, now at least know I've eaten this before it went off. Okay. Now for the horseradish. Wow. This is gonna shoot you to next December or something. I mean, this is gonna burn out. Everything you thought you were stuck on. I'm not gonna... Wow. But once you started using it, the horseradish, I believe you have to use it within a few days. So just keep eating it. Okay. And then it goes back into the fridge. So does this. Also something that has a huge impact on the amount of time your food stays edible is what you store in your fridge. Okay, now I want a bit of radicchio. Lettuce. Talking about bitter. Because I was getting tired of this bitter gourd tea. So I got myself some radicchio. If you don't like this, then get used to it. Right? I mean, you can love food, but if you just like sweet, then all I can tell you is that in my world, you're an idiot. Because also, if you're only looking for the sweet love of the woman, the sweet, yeah, you're gonna have a hard awakening. Because once this woman stops having an interest in you, because you only wanted sweet, you know, you're gonna realize that this flower got thorns, man. And that's a fact. So that's all I feel, that life's more than just sweet. You cannot just have the sweet. And you cannot appreciate the sweet without the bitter. And then you realize that sweet is bitter. Just from another perspective. Yeah, it's gonna go get all messed up anyway. And I haven't eaten something like this in a while. So sometimes I just wait, right, until I really feel like making mashed potatoes. And then I make mashed potatoes. Sometimes you just need to wait before you make fried potatoes again. Until you really feel like making fried potatoes again. because there's also yeast in that kind of cheese, right? So just be careful. Okay, blue mold cheese. What about it? If you eat it also with spicy foods, it will take care of the the yeast and stuff. It's just if you only eat yeast and sugar, so you also need bitter and spicy. Wow, this is a lot of food. But I think I've got some work to do. So I eat that now. Sometimes I eat and then I sleep and then I start working. Okay, looks like a good meal. Okay, I can already take off my shirt. Because when I eat this, I'm gonna get hot. Hot? I'm gonna get hot. You remember that one? Yeah, I do. Gonna get hot. Gonna get hot. Gonna get so hot when you eat it. Okay. Okay. Selecting food. I think I've said an adequate amount of words, things. Try to explain to you what I'm already living. But, you know, sometimes you have to just push through. Learning how to live without sugar in order to be able to live without sugar. And now I'm going to stop the recording, which means it's going to propel me into finishing off the last YouTube videos for this channel in 2025. And then I'm going to keep working on the concepts for 2026. And I'm going to start working on my books again. And this is super nice because I will have more time also to do crochet, I believe, to focus on myself, on audiobooks, figure out movement without filming myself. And then when I feel like it, I will start again. And then I can simply work through the things that I feel like I need to be doing. But I have been doing this for a while now, so you're getting better at it. Right? And because I know also what it takes to create content for different platforms, that sometimes there are things you cannot say just like that, but you can talk about treatments, you can talk about medical procedures, you can talk about certain things without using the words. Plus you can simply show a different lifestyle without highlighting the fact that you reject the other stuff, because already by showing how you live, you show that you reject it. And that's simply my way of doing this. But there are, of course, ways to say it anyway. But in the end, you show who you are through your actions. And that's what I find important. Now I'm gonna flush myself, right? I'm gonna see what's gonna happen. I feel like I have to make a point in the garden. I have to make a standing. I have to say that I have studied environmental protection and that we need flowers for insects and bees, and that I therefore see no reason to treat certain flowers as weeds just because you think that's what it is. Because that's where it came from, is from people who only wanted grass. But if I only have grass, it's a bit empty. You need flowers for butterflies, even moths, for all kinds of insects, for pollination. And so why should I always cut everything down, right? If you've got a problem with this, then that's your problem. And then you should look at your entire life and not just at what annoys you. Because if something annoys you, then that's your reflection, right? And so reducing sugar and learning to do things from your own strength. Also, maybe fast a day and go hiking. I have done these things. Fast a day and go hiking. Maybe bring water or bring a tea like this, but eat nothing. It's a hell of an experience. Introduce a bit of hardship. Fast on coffee, fast on sugar. Start eating a bit bitter. But then baby steps, right? A bit more, a bit less. Fine-tuning, right? But sometimes big chunks need to be taken out. And that's simply the way it is. So, okay. Yeah, 2025 coming slowly to an end. 2026, we're looking ahead, right? I mean, to me, the idea I've been given for 2026 is really awesome. And now I will have some time to work on this, which I find immensely liberating because I'll first work on it in my mind. And now I can write the books that I have been working on in my mind for a year or so, or some even longer. And then I can simply work on these books. And once they are done, one book at a time, of course, I can start then again with YouTube or podcasting or whatever I feel like doing. But I have to make sure that I simply always set myself some deadlines. But I'm still also, I like to be flexible. So this was selecting food. And, you're good to go, right? You're good to go. Do your own thing, right? Do your own thing. Just keep me as a reminder and make your own experiences. And, you can cook what I'm cooking and then just see, right? I mean, that's going to blow your mind. Eating ketogenic for a month, it's going to blow your mind. It's going to show you, wow, that's a protein is a much better source of energy, but I still like to introduce also bready stuff, right, for the heavy lifting.
All right, let's get this going into a new life.